Imagine surviving 3 full days behind enemy lines, in hostile mountain terrain, with no fire, no cooked food, and nothing to sustain you but 3 marble-sized black pellets sitting in the palm of your hand. No sound, no smell, no trace. Most people believe ninjas were gifted fighters, trained killers, masters of the blade. That is exactly what they wanted you to think. Because the most classified secret in the entire Bansenshukai, Japan's forbidden ninja manual, had nothing to do with weapons. Everything you think you know about how ninjas survived on secret missions is wrong. Ninjas did not live off the land. That is a myth. And it is the kind of myth that, if you were an actual shinobi operative in feudal Japan, would get you killed within hours. A growling stomach in a silent castle corridor was a death sentence. The smell of cooked rice drifting through mountain air was a death sentence. Even the wrong meal 3 days before a mission was a death sentence, because guard dogs could smell it on your breath. So Japan's shadow warriors did something no army on Earth had ever done before. They engineered food itself out of existence, and replaced it with something far more dangerous. Dear listener, tonight we open the Bansenshukai, and we eat. The year is somewhere between 1487 and 1603, the Sengoku period, Japan's century of blood. Warlords are fighting for control of an empire. Every lord needs intelligence. Every lord needs sabotage. Every lord needs someone who can walk into an enemy castle and walk back out. Enter the shinobi, the hiding ones. The Iga and Koka clans of Mie Prefecture were not mythological creatures. They were farmers, landowners who had organized into autonomous armed bands in a region too mountainous for any lord to fully control. They were paid for intelligence, sabotage, arson, and occasionally, assassination. And they had one absolute operational requirement that no other warrior class faced: invisibility. Not the supernatural kind, the practical kind. A samurai could march. A samurai could announce himself with armor and banner. A shinobi who was seen was dead. And here is where the food problem begins. Think about what a traditional meal requires. Fire, smoke. The smell of cooking rice is detectable for hundreds of meters in the mountain air. The sound of chewing. The sounds of a stomach growling, which the texts specifically describe as a death sentence for a ninja on a stakeout. The shinobi texts are clear on this. A ninja on a long infiltration mission could not eat normally. Every element of a normal meal, fire, smell, sound, weight, and digestion, was a liability that could get you killed. So they did what no warrior class before or since has ever done quite as systematically. They engineered the meal itself out of existence and replaced it with something else entirely. In 1676, long after the golden age of the shinobi had passed, a man named Fujibayashi Yasutake sat down to write a secret. He was of Iga ninja lineage. He watched the art dying around him as Japan entered peacetime and the warlords no longer needed shadows. So he did something the shinobi had never been permitted to do. He wrote it down. The result was the Bansenshukai, 22 volumes covering infiltration, espionage, explosives, medicine, philosophy, and food. It is, to this day, the most comprehensive account of shinobi tradecraft ever committed to paper. And its food chapters are extraordinary. Because the Bansenshukai does not describe meals, it describes weapons. The shinobi must be prepared for extended periods in the field with little or no food, and their health was expected to decline. These preparations were designed to delay that decline for as long as operationally possible. Now, let me be precise about something, my curious apprentice. The Bansenshukai was written after the ninja's heyday. It draws from earlier documents, from oral traditions, from clan recipes passed down through families. Historians debate how accurately it captures the Sengoku-era practice. But the recipes themselves? They are real. They have been analyzed. They have been reconstructed. And what they reveal about how the shinobi understood the human body is 500 years ahead of its time. There were 3 primary rations in the shinobi arsenal. Not 3 meals, 3 weapons, each engineered for a specific operational scenario. The first, the Hyorogan, the ration pill, 10 millimeters in diameter, the size of a large marble, made from non-glutinous rice, lotus seeds, Chinese yam, cinnamon, Adlai millet, Asian ginseng, and crystal sugar. The Bansenshukai is specific. 30 of these per day provide sufficient energy and nourishment for active mission operations. Each ball, modern nutritional analysis has confirmed, contains approximately 300 calories. They taste like cinnamon and herbs. Their texture is that of a firm dumpling. They require no fire, no water, no preparation. They produce no smell that would alert a sentry. And they could remain edible, stored correctly, for years. The ginseng content is not accidental. Ginseng is now a documented adaptogen. It modulates the body's stress response, reduces cortisol, and maintains cognitive function under sustained pressure. The shinobi didn't call it that, but they knew what it did. The second pill, the suikatsugan, the thirst-quenching pill. 9 millimeters, slightly smaller. Crushed umeboshi, pickled plum, rye ergot fungus, and crystallized sugar. The simplest version. The claim in the texts is extraordinary, and I must give it to you exactly as written. If a shinobi ate 3 suikatsugan, he would be able to live 45 days without drinking water. 45 days. Without water, the human limit without water is 3 days. This claim is biologically impossible, and the Ninja Museum of Iga Ryu acknowledges as much. But here is what is not impossible. Umeboshi is rich in sodium and potassium, precise electrolytes that modern sports drinks are engineered to deliver. The sour, salt-sweet combination of umeboshi, licorice, and mint actively stimulates salivation, reducing the sensation of thirst without consuming water. The ergot, at low doses, affects circulation and alertness. The ninja didn't have a word for electrolytes, but they built a thirst suppression device that modern nutritional scientists are still studying. The third and most remarkable, the kikatsugan, the starvation pill. 40 millimeters, 4 times larger than the others. A meal, not a supplement. Ginseng, buckwheat flour, yam, dried chickweed, adlai, glutinous rice, sake. 7 ingredients, ground together. Then, and this is the part that stopped me cold, soaked in sake for 3 years. Then, formed into balls. 3 years. That is not food storage, that is fermentation engineering. A 3-year sake fermentation creates a chemically stable, biologically preserved, nutrient-dense ration that can remain viable for years after completion. The chickweed provides vitamin C, preventing scurvy on extended missions. The fermented rice provides immediate glucose. And 3 kikatsugan per day, the texts say, removes physical and mental fatigue. No army in Europe would achieve this level of portable ration engineering for another 300 years. But the engineered rations were only half the story. The Shinobi texts are equally specific about what a ninja was absolutely forbidden to eat before a mission. Garlic, leeks and Chinese chives, meat of deer and wild boar, as it is believed to dull the senses, tobacco, because the smell persists for extended periods. The reason given was not health. It was not tradition. It was operational. The Wicca Ninja texts are explicit. A shinobi avoided these foods to avoid being detected when sneaking or hiding. Not detected by humans, by dogs. They understood 500 years before modern odor science that what you consume changes your exhalation chemistry at a molecular level. Garlic produces allyl methyl sulfide, a compound that enters the bloodstream and is exhaled through the lungs for hours after consumption. No amount of training suppresses it. No amount of willpower masks it. A guard dog trained to detect human presence will find you, and it will find you faster if you ate the wrong meal 3 days ago. The shinobi didn't have gas chromatography. They didn't have molecular biology. They had centuries of field experience, passed from master to apprentice, encoded into a forbidden food list that reads, "Now that we can analyze it," like a stealth chemistry manual. The ninja also maintained strict body weight discipline. Texts record that a shinobi was expected not to exceed 132 pounds or 60 kilograms, the then standard weight of a bag of rice. Their diet was deliberately kept simple, nutritious, and controlled, not for aesthetics, for agility, for silence, because in the Eiga Mountains, a heavy man makes sounds that a light man does not. And sound, like smell, is a death sentence in the dark. Here is the question modern performance nutritionists keep arriving at, almost despite themselves. How did a group of feudal Japanese farmers, operating in mountain secrecy, with no formal scientific infrastructure, produce a portable survival ration system that anticipates modern sports nutrition by 5 centuries? The Hyorogan's ginseng, now a confirmed adaptogen. The Suikatsugan's umeboshi, now a confirmed electrolyte source used by Japanese athletes. The Kikatsugan's 3-year sake fermentation, a preservation method that modern food scientists describe as genuinely sophisticated. The answer is not magic. It is not a legend. It is 500 years of operational field testing, passed from body to body through apprenticeship, failure, and survival. Every recipe in the Bansenshukai was field tested, not in a laboratory, but in the most rigorous test environment imaginable. An enemy castle, at midnight, alone, with no margin for error. Modern hikers and survivalists have begun experimenting with Hyorogan reconstructions. Athletes have incorporated umeboshi into training protocols. Fermentation practitioners have studied Kikatsugan's sake-soaking method. The shinobi's rebel kitchen was never meant to be discovered. The texts were hidden. The recipes were classified. Their authors died nameless. And yet here we are, 500 years later, in a modern laboratory, finally understanding what they already knew. The most powerful weapon the ninja ever carried wasn't a blade. It wasn't a poison. It wasn't a shuriken. It was a 10mm ball of rice, lotus, ginseng, and crystal sugar, small enough to carry 100 of in a single pouch, powerful enough to make a man disappear for days. The shinobi's rebel kitchen stayed hidden for centuries, but ideas that work have a way of resurfacing. 70 years after the last shinobi faded into the mountains of Eiga, the industrial age began designing its own version of the same problem. How do you feed a soldier at war when there is no kitchen, no fire, no time? What they built was very different from the Hyorogan. Louder, heavier, more controversial, and in some ways, far more dangerous than anything the Shinobi ever ate.